Hi guys, welcome back to Clean Cut Cam. Today we're gonna be using some chainsaws. But before we can do that, we're gonna have to get this branch down, which is fallen off. And once we get it down, we'll be able to start chopping it up. So let's get stuck into it. Okay guys, so we're about to push this branch down. It's actually cracked off up the top here. But an important rule of thumb when you're dealing with trees that are gonna be falling is you always wanna have an escape plan. So I know that we're gonna try and push this tree over towards the camera there, and if it starts going, I'm gonna jump backwards out of the way of the falling because it might fall on my legs. So we're gonna push it over.
You viewers, that axe is hella sharp. I don't know what you're talking about.
Three, two, one. Turns out I didn't need my escape route.
Right.
Let's get to work. Okay guys, the first step to getting your chainsaw ready is learning how to start it. But before we start it, we've got to note some important safety things. So obviously this chain is going around very fast to cut the wood. So we've got to be careful that that does not come in contact with any of our body parts, especially our feet if we're chopping towards ourselves. So I'm using boots, which are fiberglass cap, to prevent that. The first step to starting it is making sure that your brake is engaged. So this is what they call the brake. Make sure that's engaged. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on here, pull that up, and start it with the choke. So I'll pull out the choke here. And then what I'm going to do is what we call a rip start. So grab it by the pull cord and then, okay, so it bogged down there. So we've definitely got enough fuel in the engine. So I'm going to kill the choke and then start her again. Got it started. Then we're going to engage the brake. So that's engaged. We're good to go. Okay guys, so we're about to chop up this log and show you how to chop up wood. But what you want to do is you want to watch when you're chopping wood that you don't chop into the dirt, because you don't want to get dirt into your chainsaw blade. So what I've done is I've actually chopped up a couple of these pieces of wood, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them under it, and then I can use gravity and a bit of space under the ground to make sure that I get nice clean cuts. So I'm just going to lift it up, chuck that piece of wood under, and now I can cut right there. And if your wood's rolling a bit, you can use the other one to sort of like a bit of a brake to stop it from rolling around. Too easy, we're ready to start cutting now. Okay, we're about to start chainsawing this up now. So we're going to be chainsawing it up for firewood. So what I like to do, I like to look for forks in the trees and look for these nice pieces of chunks of firewood. You'll see down here that we actually have a good sized bit of firewood. So what I'm going to do is, to make the cuts look the nicest, I'm going to go right down the middle of that fork It can be a little tricky because the grain structure is different where the fork joins back onto the main trunk of the tree. We're going to chop it straight down there, and that'll give us a nice main beam length for the trunk of the tree when we chop it up into segments. So let's get started. What you may have noticed there is when I was cutting that piece off there, I kept the base of the chainsaw here really close to the tree. And what that does is that makes sure that your cut is nice and stable. Because if you're out here, you can be wobbling around and you can damage your blade, you can bend it if you wobble it around too much. So we're doing that there, keeps it nice and close and nice and easy for you. Also, an important note for safety is you never want to be cutting towards your leg. So you'll never find me cutting towards my leg like that. It's always either going to be in between or it's going to be on the side, so I'm cutting away from myself. So once I've done that, I'm going to move across these little piece of wood I got here, which just means this next cut's going to be a lot easier because I don't have to worry about my chainsaw going in. And on this one, I'm actually going to do what is known as a wedge cut. Now, we often do wedge cuts on bigger pieces of timber when we're using little chainsaws. Because what can happen on the really big pieces is, because there's so much surface area, the chainsaw gets bogged down in it and it struggles to cut through it. So what we can do there to stop that is, we can actually cut on an angle on this side, and then we cut on the other side another angle, and they meet in the middle. And so what happens there is we can take a chunk of the tree out, which is known as a wedge. And that's the quickest way of getting through those really big trees. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Getting ready, I'm going to start chopping on that wedge. And there you have it, that wedge has come out nice and easy. Now it will be a bit easier for us to chop into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right in there and go across all the way that way. Something you might notice when you're first using a chainsaw is it's got a lot of power. And often if you're not careful, when you press it on the wood, it'll actually either pull you or push you away, which can be quite dangerous. So what I like to do is I like to have a steady stance. I put a straight back leg, I've got a bent front leg, I'm ready, I'm bending over it. I use the front arm to counteract the push, and I use this back arm to pivot it. So I'll show you what it looks like if you're not careful and you leave it too easy. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm just going to place it real easy on the wood. So you'll notice, you ready? See how it brought the wood towards it and it pulled me towards it? Now if you're cutting on the underside, it'll actually do the opposite. What it'll actually do is it'll push the chainsaw back towards itself. How to show you? Okay. See that? Pushing the chainsaw back towards me. So guys, now you know the basics of chopping up firewood with the chainsaw in a safer manner. I hope that all you guys can get out there, chop up some of your own firewood so that you can enjoy a nice, warm, toasty fire. But now, it's time for a montage.